I don't know if there was anyone on the planet more excited for this new Superman movie than I was. When James Gunn announced that his follow-up to Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 would be a Superman reboot, my imagination began to run wild with what this film could be. Here was one of the best comic book filmmakers making a movie about one of the most iconic heroes fresh off of the success of one of my favorite superhero movies ever made. Guardians 3 was a great surprise, a bright spot in what was otherwise a terrible slate of slop that the MCU was churning out. And that was all thanks to the singular voice and vision of James Gunn. The Guardians movies have always felt like James Gunn movies first and Marvel movies second, and Volume 3 is no exception, as it packed so much hope and joy and optimism, and unlike the vast majority of movies released by that studio at that time, it felt like an artist trying to express themselves, while also delivering engaging and crowd-pleasing action. It was able to perfectly juggle the spectacle with the emotion, and it's a feat in and of itself that a movie with that much soul was able to make it out of a studio that seems to suck the life out of every film churned out of their assembly line. In a time when the world has never seemed more bleak, it seemed like a hopeful, optimistic, and inspiring Superman made by a filmmaker with a strong point of view was exactly what I wanted. When it was announced that Gunn would not only be taking on a Superman movie, but also heading the new DC studios, I was ecstatic. His principle of not greenlighting a film or television show until there is a finished script seems so obvious, but when you look at the state of Marvel and films like Brave New World, The Marvels, and Thunderbolts, the latter of which was hiring writers a week before they started shooting. And even outside of the superhero genre with films like Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, which ran into huge production issues and a ballooned budget all because Tom Cruise and Christopher McQuarrie were writing the movie as they shot it. This simple rule seems like it'll help the new DC studios create well-conceived stories by groups of artists, as opposed to turning out content on the fly with the sole goal of keeping their IP relevant and appeasing shareholders. All this is to say, I'm a fan of James Gunn, and I'm a fan of his vision for how to run a studio. I wanted more than anything to see this movie succeed. With every new promotional image or set photo, I was crafting theories, like how the leather jackets of the Justice Gang were symbolic of the sterile corporate sameness that companies like Disney and Warner Bros. Have been pushing in all their superhero stories. I tuned in to watch the first trailer on the DC Studios YouTube page as they first live streamed it to the world. I read and watched every public interview James Gunn, David Cornsweet, and the rest of the cast gave about the movie, and I ended up getting a free trial membership to Amazon Prime just to buy a $25 ticket to a special early screening, even though I already pay for a membership to the theater that would have let me see it for free when it came out just 2 days later. I was ready. I was, as the kids say, locked in. And now, having sat through all 2 hours and 10 minutes of Superman, I can officially say that the movie is just fine. Like, it's okay. Don't get me wrong. I think that this movie is good. There's a lot here that I think is great. Maybe I'm the victim of my own overexcitement and disappointment that the movie we got on screen wasn't the movie I've been making in my head for the past 2 years, but I still can't help but be a bit underwhelmed. This movie has a lot going on, which isn't to say that it was hard to follow, but in juggling so much, some of the themes and ideas feel undercooked or tacked on. This movie is a love story between Clark and Lois, but also a relevant look into the essence of greed, capitalism, corporate overreach, and political corruption with Lex. It's a tale of family heritage and how we choose to define ourselves. A movie about a man and his dog learning to get along. A philosophical debate about the role of a hero in society. A timely commentary on Israel's ongoing genocide of the Palestinians in Gaza and the treatment of immigrants in the US. And also there's a weird green monster baby for some reason. I think all of these things are compelling on their own, and I really respect the hell out of James Gunn for tackling all these things in a high-budget superhero blockbuster from a major studio. There's a story here that can blend all these elements in a way that flows better, but I think what this movie lacks most is a through line between each of these weighty themes. One second you're caught up in the drama about Superman and his relationship with his Kryptonian identity, and then the next hour is spent looking for a dog, talking about pocket universes, Russian roulette, and a bunch of action set pieces until Pa Kent is giving a weighty and inorganic speech about how the choices we make are what actually define us, and you remember, oh yeah, this is what this movie is about. All the threads are there, it just fails to tie them together in a cohesive way, particularly with the Justice Gang who, despite my theorizing, end up ultimately serving as Superman's team of pals that help him fight the bad guy and save the day, and not really anything more than that. A lot of wasted potential there that I hope can be followed up in later stories, but that's the problem. I didn't want this movie to just be set up for more things to come. I was hoping that these characters would be more than just jumping off points for a Green Lantern TV show or whatever they're going to do with the Justice League. My other big complaint about the movie that stops it from being great for me is that the visual style really did not work. Don't get me wrong, cinematographer Henry Braum is able to compose some really beautiful images, but the whole thing is covered in CGI gloss that I found quite ugly. I get that they're trying to make things look and feel more comic booky, and I appreciate that this movie actually had a color palette, but I couldn't help but not feel anything as the digital scan of David Cornsweet punched other CGI models into CGI structures. The magic of believing a man could fly is gone, and what we're left with is more generic weightless set pieces that I couldn't wait for it to be over. This may also be the fault of the advertising team putting every single impressive shot in the marketing material, and my fault for watching all of it. Seriously, there wasn't a single big moment of action that wasn't shown in the trailers first. So for me, having obsessed over this movie for so long, instead of being taken on a journey, I was only anticipating what the marketing had trained me to expect. Superman is, unfortunately, another reminder to stay away from trailers, especially for movies I'm excited for. These criticisms aside, there was a lot about this movie to love, namely the 2 lead performances. I bought my David Cornsweet should play Superman stock back in high school when I saw him on Ryan Murphy's The Politician, and the returns have been astronomical. He's able to bring Superman as a character a lot of personality that has been desperately missing from his portrayals on the big screen since Christopher Reeve. He's funny, endearing, and endlessly charming, the perfect hero you can't help but root for. His line to Lois about optimism and joy being the new punk rock is one of the best moments of the movie, perfectly encapsulating who this version of Clark is as a person and a hero. Though the script leaves some plot elements underdeveloped, Clark is characterized perfectly, and through Cornsweet's performance you can see the burden the events of the story are leaving on Clark, from the way he carries himself through his exasperated but heartfelt moment with Lois, to his desperation in trying to find Krypto, to his, a little overly written, monologue to Lex at the end about the essence of humanity. Speaking of Lex, Nicholas Hoult is giving an all-timer in terms of supervillain performances. He's able to communicate so much through just a look. At times, he honestly feels like he's in a completely different and better movie. The characterization of Lex is very over the top and comic booky. He's not some misunderstood genius or someone with good intentions who gets pushed too far. He's just pure evil, but in a way that's fun to watch. And Holt's performance gives him an even greater presence and depth throughout the film, making him the clear standout in my opinion. At the end of the day, this is a multi-million-dollar superhero blockbuster that, above all, feels like a film by an artist with a point of view on the world that he wanted to share. Love or hate James Gunn as a filmmaker, it is clear that this movie is unabashedly his version of Superman. In a time where these types of movies are feeling more and more like products, it's at least nice to see a storyteller take a swing with one of the world's most iconic characters. And though this isn't the movie I was hoping it would be, I'm generally happy with the one that we got. And I'm excited to see where this new, artist-led DCU goes next.